There you go. So whenever you're ready.
Hello, I'm Bill Bracken. I'm the founder and culinary director of Bracken's Kitchen, a community impact nonprofit hunger relief organization here in Orange County.
Bill and I met. Thanks, Bill. It's great to have you. There are some people in my life when I just don't remember not knowing them, and I know we didn't meet that long ago, but I've known who you are for a long time. I think where you came onto my radar in person was last year when you were honored through the Passkeys Foundation. And you gave just an amazing, I'll call it a speech for lack of a better term, but you talked about Bracken's Kitchen and your mission and what you do. So I'm going to just tell our audience a little bit about you and what you do. Bracken's Kitchen is a 501c3 organization based here in Orange County, California, founded in 2013. Their mission is simple: through food recovery, culinary training, and community feeding programs, they are committed to recovering and repurposing and restoring both food and lives. I love that. I watched a video in my stocking, or I'll call preparing for this interview. I watched a little YouTube video where you took us on a tour, and I love how you talk about we nourish people, we don't feed them. Tell me what the difference is to you on that.
Well, somewhere along the line, one of our volunteers in the early days said that we're delivering hope one tasty meal at a time. And we learned a long time ago that food is just a conduit that we've been given to reach people. Obviously, we feed people. It's what we do. There's so much hunger in Orange County and all over America. But if people are struggling to put a meal on the table, you can be darn sure that they're struggling in so many other areas. So from the very beginning, when I knew I was being called to feed people, we set out to do it differently, to truly spend time with them, not just hand out a meal, good luck, bye-bye, brown bag with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but to come out with a food truck to feed them, to put on an event. We always insist if we were out with the food truck, there's tables and chairs to set up, that there's music playing and a good meal, and let them escape life, even for just an hour, to really nourish their body, their soul, and to give them a little bit of hope for something better tomorrow.
How do people find you, and how do you find them? I'm not end of the interview. We'll talk about what's your social and how do people reach you and get involved, and we'll do that. We'll table that, pun intended. But how do people find Bracken's Kitchen and what you do, and how do you find them?
Well, we early on when we started Bracken's Kitchen, I didn't have much of a budget. I was unemployed at the time, and I was, funding this myself. And what we did have was social media, and we worked really hard to pour into that just to raise awareness. And like you said, we'd been on, like you'd been on my radar screen for a long time. You'd heard about us, so we have a lot of agency partners that we work with. Over 45 right now that get meals from us that we connect with, go out with the food truck and feed still. And they are really our conduit to feeding people. From the very beginning, I knew I didn't want to have to go out looking for people who are hungry. I didn't ever want to have to qualify a person's needs. So we just came alongside other well-known nonprofits who are already providing a multitude of services, food just not being one of them. And it's just truly been kind of our way of reaching out to community. We just started a culinary training program, and we work with all these agency partners that help us with our students. So it really is through the village that it takes, as we know.
Now, not to age you because you put this in your bio, or whoever wrote your bio did, but I'm just going to use the number because it's out there. 35-year career in the luxury hospitality industry. So how did you, I'm curious, I'm sure that knowing you the way I'm getting to know you, I'm sure that the idea, even though you launched in 2013, probably hit you in the 90s or probably hit you in the early 2000s. Like most good efforts, the idea was there for a while. When did this go from an idea to now fast forward to 2013 and it's a reality? Talk us through that process.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you got the older version of my bio. It only says 35
only
years.
35. Yeah, there you go.
There's a few more behind now, but we won't talk about that right now. With the big birthday coming up in a few days.
We're both approaching a big day here, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Ed, as I look back, I realized my whole life has been just on a path to where I am here and where I grew up in small town America. We just looked out after each other. My grandma, one of my grandmothers, always had a pie in the bottom left side of her refrigerator that I learned very early on, don't ever touch that pie. Mm-hmm. This grandma didn't cook a lot. The other grandma was an amazing cook. But this grandma always had pies. And back then the train came through town. stopped at the little train depot in town before the trains went away. And there was always, what you call hobos riding the trains across the country. And my grandma would always go down there and take a pie and feed people. So, this is just an example. My other grandma comes from a very rural area, and they would literally give, if they had one chicken left in their chicken pen, it would have been dinner tonight. They would give that to feed somebody else. And this is just the world I grew up in. And, I got lost along the way in the luxury world of five-star, five-diamond hotels and feeding the rich and famous. But in 2008, we're both old enough that we can remember when that economy tanked and the housing market went in the toilet. And I watched a lot of really good friends lose their job when there was no jobs out there, and I watched him struggle. And to me, the face of hunger was always that person on the side of the freeway with the sign "Hungry." We'll work for food or something.
Yeah.
And the face of hunger for me changed right in front of me. Friends of mine who had no job, had no prospect of a job. They maybe had a house or a mortgage. They had a wife, young kids at home, and they couldn't even put a meal on their table. And that was then that I was first, felt that I was being called to feed people. And as time went on, I did like many people did during that time, that just put your head down and work really hard. And especially in the hospitality industry and hotels, because tourism just dropped off completely. Events, travel, banquets, businesses weren't putting on big fancy holiday Christmas parties and things. I mean, the world changed for us in 2008, and I just put my head down to not end up on the chopping block. And then in 2011, the inevitable happened. Inevitable, and I was thrust into the lines of unemployed. And I knew then that was God doing for me what I could do for myself, and that was truly my call to feed people. There's so much more to the story, but I won't bore everybody with all the details.
No,
but that's really got me going.
This is the Bill Bracken Hour. People are listening today because they want to hear your story.
Thank you. You're too kind.
What do you love? Let me first, we'll get into Bracken's Kitchen here in a second on the same question, but as a chef, what is it about being a chef? I've read that, and you even just said it, you felt called to it. What I watch all the cooking channels. I love Guy Fieri. I'm fascinated by restaurants and by what you do. I have no talent for it whatsoever. Just like music. I love music, but I can sing a little, but I can't play an instrument. What is it about being a chef that you love so much?
Well, I don't know that I can.
Apart from what you're doing at Bracken's Kitchen, we'll go there.
Oh no, I got you, but
just your talent.
I'm gonna clarify it for a minute, because I learned a long time ago that there's a lot of really amazing cooks out there, but they don't all become great chefs, because being a chef is so much more than cooking. It is running a kitchen, running a brigade. So I don't know that I ever loved being a chef, because that's running a business. Yeah, but the cooking part of it. I stumbled into cooking at home when I was, I don't know, 10 years old, and mom went back to work. I was the youngest of 4 kids. Dad worked, and I started cooking to feed myself because I was hungry. I was home, and my greatest joy as I got a little bit older will probably shock you, but because we grew up with a garden where we grew all of our own produce, and it was canned or frozen and put in a root cellar. People don't know what root cellars are in California, but grandma
Kansas,
had
right?
The underground cellar. Yeah. So, the potatoes and the apples and the hard vegetables went into the root cellar underground for the winter. Dad worked in a meat packing plant. So everything at home was all made from scratch, home cooked. And, when I got a little older and I could drive my bike around town in the summer, especially, I'd pick up pop bottles, affectionately known as soda bottles in California, glass bottles. And we didn't recycle them back then. They turned them in for 5 cents. And I believe they cleaned them, sterilized them, and reused them back in the day. But 5 soda bottles or pop bottles would give me a quarter. The quarter, I can go to the local grocery store and I can buy a can of Chef Boyardee SpaghettiOs, because we never had those at home. And so that was almost how I started cooking. And I could buy a TV dinner for 30 cents and pop it in the oven, or even before microwaves. And because again, that was something we never had at home. And some of my friends always had those convenience foods. And, that I graduated into cooking and everything. And along the way, I learned that not only did I have a talent for it and a skill for it, but I actually really enjoyed it. And, cooking, if you truly are an artist of the trade, if you will, it's an art form, and it's a way to express yourself on a plate with food. And we all share the two most basic human needs for survival: the need to breathe, the need to eat. And at Bracken's Kitchen, we say the problem is air is free and food is not. But that fact gives food so much power over a person's life. And whether you're an A-list celebrity that I fed in Beverly Hills who's freaking out about the way his oatmeal is made, or someone who doesn't know where the meal's coming from, food is a powerful, powerful thing in a person's life because we need it to survive. And when you're cooking and you're not only satisfying someone's desires for a great meal, but also satisfying their need to just eat. There's something, it's hard to even describe, but there's something deeply rewarding for people who really appreciate that. And, at the same time, you get to be creative, you get to be artistic. I need a creative outlet, whether it's working on something in my backyard or working on something in the kitchen. So, and depending on who you are and where you're from, food becomes your artistic outlet as a chef.
Are you the one that cooks at home?
Not much anymore, believe it or not. Molly's come a long ways. That we joke and call her the one pot wonder because she can do amazing things. She's finally, after all these years of life with me, she's learned to not have to follow a recipe and just get creative and cook. And I joke when I say that because I remember the day that my mother realized that as a chef, I didn't open a cookbook and make a recipe from a book. And I mean, I was a chef de cuisine with Four Seasons at the time, and she's like, "You mean you don't have a recipe that you follow?" No, Mom, I'm the recipe. It's just like it's a whole other world.